Tune in for a tale, words that set sail.
Digital Splendor, Literature Illuminated.
All right, let's get into it. We're about to crack open a really fascinating piece of history. It's a top-secret government document from World War II that, and I'm not kidding, might be the most accurate description of your modern office job you have ever heard. You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're sitting in a meeting that just won't end. You're staring at the clock, and you're just wondering, how does anything ever get done around here? And sometimes, doesn't it feel like it's more than just, simple inefficiency? It feels deliberate. Like there's a carefully orchestrated plan to bring every bit of progress to a grinding halt. I mean, think about it. Those endless meetings that go absolutely nowhere. Debating the exact phrasing of a memo for, what, an hour? The constant insistence on proper channels for the simplest request. Oh, or my personal favorite. Taking a tiny, simple decision and referring it to a massive committee for further study. It feels strategic, doesn't it? Well, here's the crazy part. What if I told you that back in 1944, the US government literally wrote the instruction manual for doing all of those things, and not as a warning for what not to do, but as an actual playbook for how to intentionally sabotage an organization? So let's jump back in time to the height of the war and take a really close look at this incredible and honestly shockingly relevant document. Meet the Simple Sabotage Field Manual. It was created by the Office of Strategic Services, or the OSS, which was basically the precursor to the CIA. And its purpose? Well, it was to give regular people, just ordinary citizens living under enemy occupation, a way to fight back by gumming up the works of industry, government, and the whole military machine right from the inside. Now, what's so brilliant about this is the focus on keeping it simple and safe. The manual makes it super clear this isn't about being some kind of James Bond super spy. No, this is about using everyday stuff and having total plausible deniability. The whole goal was to let anyone become a saboteur with the smallest possible risk to themselves. The manual basically breaks down all this chaos into two main flavors of mayhem. So on one hand, you've got physical sabotage, direct, destructive stuff. But then there's the second type. And this is where it gets good. The manual calls it interfering with the human element. This stuff is indirect, it's obstructive, and it is beautifully deniable. It's all about making bad decisions and just generally adopting a non-cooperative attitude. And this is where things start to sound really familiar. But hey, before we dive into the office politics, let's just take a quick look at the physical destruction. I mean, the creativity in using everyday objects to just cause chaos is pretty amazing. For example, want to take out an engine? The manual says just find some sugar or honey and pour it in the gas tank. When the engine starts up, that sugar will burn into this thick, gooey mess that will completely seize the motor. Boom, done. Simple, right? But absolutely devastatingly effective. This just shows the mindset perfectly. Jam up locks with hairpins. Ruin heavy machinery by putting a little sand in the oil. You can even clog an entire sewage system by flushing a sponge that you've dried and starched. It'll slowly expand and block everything up. It's all about using common stuff to create the biggest possible headache. Okay, let's get to it. Let's move to the part of the manual that honestly feels like it was written about your last team meeting. This is the art of sabotaging organizations and conferences. Does that sound familiar? The manual literally tells saboteurs to just dominate the conversation with long, rambling, irrelevant stories. The goal couldn't be simpler. Waste as much time as possible and completely derail the actual agenda. Ah, a true classic. The manual pinpoints that the absolute best way to kill any idea is to send it to a committee. And the bigger the committee, the better. It's a guaranteed way to make sure that nothing ever actually happens. You ever been in a meeting that just gets completely stuck arguing over whether to use the word leverage or utilize? Yeah, well, according to the OSS, that is a prime sabotage tactic. You focus on all these tiny, trivial details to make sure no real, substantive decisions ever get made. And here it is, the masterstroke. Weaponize being reasonable. By constantly pushing for more caution and warning everyone against haste, a saboteur can bring an entire group to a standstill, all while looking like the most prudent, thoughtful person in the room. It's genius. And the thing is, this advice goes way beyond just meetings. The manual gives a whole playbook for managers too. It tells them to create friction everywhere, demand everything in writing, and then misunderstand the instructions. It also tells them to completely misallocate resources, like give the most critical tasks to your worst employees, or insist on absolute perfection for some trivial little product while the important stuff just falls apart. It is a complete guide to organizational paralysis. So, when you look at all this, you just have to ask yourself, why does an 80-year-old spy manual feel like a perfect diagnosis of 21st century corporate life? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. The folks who wrote this manual, they didn't invent these behaviors. They just observed the natural weak points of any big, complex organization. The tendencies toward cash-in and bureaucracy and miscommunication, and they just wrote down how to exploit all of it on purpose. Which really just leaves us with one last, kinda spooky thought. The next time you're stuck in another pointless meeting or you're tangled up in endless red tape, just ask yourself, is this just normal inefficiency, or is someone somewhere in your office following the manual?